All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of CCR Liberty in Detail, our live stream. My name is Joe Bosquez, and I'll be your host today. Hope everyone's doing well. I can see already on the comment chain that you've got a bunch of people tuning in. We've got a good episode for you guys today. So what we're going to talk, so last week, what Jacob talked about, we're going to kind of dive in a little bit more into kind of the accessories to the Liberty Rebreather. So we have our oxygen cell tester kit, and then we have our bumper plate, and then we have some other kind of accessories. I have helium plugs, which I wanted to talk about that. We have our fancy caps, and then we have our head fan. It's also a very important tool, really handy, especially for diving here in Florida. And then also I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of our calibration jig and how handy it is to have, different parts of the tools. And we also have I wanted to remind everybody, since we're all kind of diving now and we're kind of cleaning and disinfecting things more because of COVID, we do sell this disinfectant solution, which and I'll tell you guys kind of what the ingredient is. It's kind of a tongue twister. I got to make sure I say it right. The dimethyl benzyl alkyl ammonium chloride, or BACs. Very good, very handy for cleaning and disinfecting your equipment. So be sure to check that out on our website as well. So yeah, so the oxygen cell tester kit, I wanted to do a little bit of an experiment. So what I did was I have one new cell in the head, and then I have some old cells in the kit. And so what I wanted to show you guys was what happens when the cells are current limited or when they're old. I think there's one from 2016, there's one from 2017, 18, and 19. All right, so it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. And so a little bit talking about the cells, we have our type 22D cells. These are the cells that we sell from our website. And, I'll be kind of going back and forth between them. This one is the one that I pulled out of this head. So I have it written and labeled of when I installed my cell and what number it is as part of kind of the orientation in the cell block. All right. So I hope everyone's doing well. Matt will be kind of, any questions you have as we go through the process, Matt will be kind of throwing them up on my screen so I can see them. But I'm really going to talk a lot about, how the Liberty Rebreather is evaluating and measuring your PPO2, and it's kind of the whole step-by-step process. All right, so let's dive in. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through the entire process. So it'll be a fun-filled video today. And I just got to make sure that I stay in camera the entire time and make sure that you guys can hear me. So first thing I'm going to do, I know I haven't spoken a lot about the kind of the anatomy of the head. Jacob did a good video on it in the beginning of the Liberty in Detail. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some power on my batteries. So get her woken up. So the first thing that she's going to do is she's going to think that the PO2, there we go, I'm going to move right here. She's going to think that the PO2 is low because I have the old cells. This is our oxygen cell carriage. I have the screws removed so that I can take it in and out pretty easily. But you can see this is kind of the plug and play system that we have. And I don't know if you can hear, I don't know how good the microphone is picking up, but the solenoid's firing right now. So this is the piece that we have. It's a combination. Always got to make sure I don't drop anything. It's always fun to do on camera. So I hope everyone's doing good today. Today's Tuesday, right? So we got folks. So everybody chime in. Be sure to comment. Let us know where you're watching from. I know we got folks out on the West Coast, and we got folks here in the East Coast as well. We got to make sure. There we go. Put this plug in here. So this is where, so we have our CU stored in the two sides of the two different CUs. They're in this sealed compartment. It's kind of like, we call this top section the puck. Go, let me make sure. So the way that our CUs, they're directly plugged in. Each CU is directly plugged into two oxygen cells directly, but they're able to kind of cross-communicate through the bridge. Now, if you can see here, you can see that my PO2 is reading. It says that the PO2 is low because the cells are not calibrated, and it's constantly trying to right now add oxygen. If I jump in and you can see the millivolts, you can see already that that it's pretty low. I got 10 millivolts in ambient air, 7 millivolts in another cell, and it's 21%, 15%, or 15 bar. And so they're kind of all over the place. So the Liberty is thinking, oh, you're at 0.19 PO2, you need oxygen. I always feel bad when I'm doing this. It sounds like she's very concerned. So this whole process takes about 5 minutes. It's not long, but it does take a little bit of time. Got a couple ducks running around. Let's see if you guys can tell me how many are on here. Wanted to have a little game because I know we haven't done the duck game in a little while. And then, so now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to turn on or pressurize the system yet because right now it's trying to inject oxygen. And I have the system sealed right now. So essentially what the test does is it creates a pressure pot, a oxygen pressure chamber. So I'm going to control it by making sure the gas is shut off. Before, no more games. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the menu. I'm going to make sure that you guys can see it. So I double click to get into the menu. I scroll down and I go into my applications. Oh, and then there we go. So I'm not going to play any games right now. No more games. It does have an analyzer, and then it has the oxygen cell test. So I'm going to click it. So it's going to say press key for start. So what it's going to do is going to give me the step-by-step process of kind of running the cell tester. So I'm screwed in. I have a bleed screw right here. It's shut tight. Everything's tight, and I have my handset plugged in. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pressurize real slow. So I have a digital gauge here. I think this cylinder is pretty low. Yep, 40 bar, pretty low, but it'll be plenty of for this test. You need to do visual inspections anyway, so we're going to press to start. So right now it's telling me to open the release valve, and then it's closing it. So what it's going to do, the solenoid's going to fire. I'm going to see if I can adjust the microphone. Maybe make sure you guys can hear me and you can hear the system working. So it's adding oxygen to the system. So what are we testing for? Why are we testing the cells? As you learn through your basic rebreather course, that that the oxygen cells, they become current limited over time. So now it's asking me to release the valve. So this is going to go through 5 cycles. And so what do we want to look for with healthy cells? Healthy cells are going to have that slope and that linearity on the graph as they go up to higher pressure. So we're pressuring it up to, as you can see, it was up to about 3 bar. And so what's the oxygen cell doing as the pressure increases in the system? Remember, it's a galvanic cell, so it's going to be reacting with the higher pressure of oxygen. So basically what we're doing is we're tracking the slope of the millivoltage over the pressure. Sorry, it's hard to speak and like be opening the valve and making sure I'm going through that all at the same time. So we're going to go through this over 5 cycles, and basically it's going to be creating that graph. And when we see in the healthy cells, we're going to see a really good slope, and then with a good coefficient, and we're going to be tracking about what's the millivoltage doing at pressure. Make sure you guys can see. So it pumps it up to 3.52 bar. So so to get into the way that the voting logic goes with the Liberty, remember we have the 2 oxygen cells to each CU, but they have the kind of the bridge so they can communicate with one another. So that's the reason why there's 4 cells, because it's 2 for each CU. Now, the way that it verifies on the logic of it is that it verifies cell 1 to the average of 2, 3, and 4, and then it cycles, and then it goes from 2 verified against 2, 1, 3, and 4, and so on. And 3 is verified to 1, 2, and 4. It's verified to the average of those 3. So it's constantly verifying each cell to the other 3 average. And then, so, you know, what's the danger of kind of the voting logic? Well, if you have 3 bad cells and 1 good cell, it's going to tell you that the 1 good cell is going to be excluded, right? So that's kind of the pitfall that we run into with the voting logic. So you can have 3 that are bad and 1 that is good, which is probably going to be likely of what we're going to find here, because I put the 3 very old cells. One of them's 4 years old, and the other ones are about a year younger and a year younger. And so hopefully we'll see some interesting results. You know, I wanted you guys to see what do bad cells look like, because, you know, I can tell you like, oh, I gotta make sure that I'm reading when it says open. So if we know what to expect, we know we want to expect that pretty graph, and you see that, you know, okay, great, that's what I expected, that's what I see. All right, good to dive. But it's important to be able to recognize when there's a problem and what do all the numbers mean specifically. You know, we always want to create thinking divers. You know, you don't want to see, oh, I'm just looking for a straight line graph. Okay, looks good. All right, great. I don't need to and now even if they're still reading well after a year, you should still change them. You know, this an oxygen cell test is not a substitute for justifying that, like, well, you know, the cells are only 12 months, they're 12 months old. You know, I've heard I can go 12 to 18 months. And so you're essentially pushing your luck. Well, I'm going to test it even, and I'm going to see that it's all right. And it's like, you should still, because the cell tester can, even though it goes up to 3.5 bar, it could, a little bit deeper, you could have more problems. Because since the cells, as they get older, they will taper at higher pressures. All right. So it looks like we're about 4 to 5 cycles. So let's see. So a couple of really interesting points that we brought up with kind of some of the protective equipment. The hose covers, we mentioned some of those. You can see this head over here has the cable covers. This is my head. That's why it's all scratched up and beat up, because that's why I have the bumper on here, just for that reason. But these covers, these cable covers, are actually they do a really, really good job of giving the cables a little bit of rigidity. And so, like, for example, very often when we're diving, we have our handsets, we have our controllers, they have the cables. The cables will kink. They'll kind of have a life of their own. But what these cable covers do, when it gives it rigidity, it's able to kind of be a little bit more rigid as you wrap them around your arms. And so they'll stay a little bit closer. They're less likely to kind of get caught very easily or have these weird kind of bows or kinks in the cable. So along with protecting the handset cables, the handset covers do a good job just overall streamlining the equipment, because, you know, it's pretty hard to streamline long cables just in general. So it's giving it that rigidity just makes it as best as it can. So, and that's my opinion. So, but I've been really happy with it, and I've done it, and it does a good job. All right, so we're on our 5th cycle. So I'm going to open it one more time, trying to keep the conversation wild and exciting and interesting for you guys. All right. If you guys have any interesting questions or comments, go ahead, leave them below. Or kind of discussions. How do you cycle through your cells? Do you do you replace all your cells once a year, or do you cycle them over time? I'm a big fan of buying a new cell every, say, 3 months, and you replace one of your one of the cells every 3 months or so. And so that really guarantees that you have fresh cells. It kind of minimizes the impact that you can have from having like a bad batch of cells. You really want to randomize it. All right, this blade screw's kind of old, and so I gotta twist it up. All right, so now let's see. So it's measuring point 2 out of 7. So right now we have 1 bar of oxygen. So you can see right there, the second cell is already pretty far behind the first, the third, and the fourth. So we hope that the second cell is going to be excluded, right? Now, the Liberty can only exclude 2 cells at its maximum. Automatically exclude them. Now, the Liberty also does have a kind of a redundant PPO2 measurement if you're using a greater than 20% helium in the mix. By using our solid-state helium sensors, it's able to determine what the partial pressure of oxygen is in the breathing mix if you're using a trimix of helium that's greater than 20%. Excuse me. There we go. So you can see 167 millivolts, and we're at 3.5 bar. It's a big difference. Okay, so now we jumped in. Now we've concluded our cell test. So we have this is all based off kind of percentages. We have our 0.21. Now that's going to be, we have our reference at 1.0. Now, based off of what the cells are reading at 21%, you can see plus 12 deviation, plus 6 deviation, plus 2 deviation, and then plus 2. So 1 and 4 are reading the closest out of the 4. Then we have our reference at 1.04 bar. That's going to be our reference for basing our slope. Then you have a 1.56 bar, plus 0, plus 9, plus 1, and plus 6. So if we were at plus 0 the entire time, we would have a perfectly mathematically straight slope. The numbers just mean how much is deviating from the slope. So I'm going to click to the next window. All right, make sure you guys can see really well. So you can see, I don't know if you can distinguish between the colors, but that red line, that's our first cell. And then the green line is our second cell. The green line is, I don't know if you guys can tell the color, but the number 2 is that lowest one at the bottom. You can see early on, it just tapers off. And then the 3 is the yellow. The 3 is still pretty close to our first cell. And you can, and it's like, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's probably like the 2018 cell. You can see that it's still trying, but it's going to taper off more and more and more over time. So it'll be more and more inaccurate. Now our fourth cell is this blue one that's right between that bottom one and that in the two that are straight. So this guy, you can see she's starting to taper a lot. Not as much as the last one, the green, or the cell number 2, but this is what we want to avoid. And this is what a bad test looks like, and this is what a cell essentially that we don't want to dive with will look like. Now the first one is going to be good. That's also our newest cell. That's a 2019 cell. Now earlier when I was testing this guy, because I wanted to make sure it actually looked right, the Liberty excluded cell number 1 because it was the only cell that was doing what it's supposed to, but 2, 3, and 4 were all kind of grouped together. So that's the dangerous thing that we fall into with the cells, is that they can be grouped together, and the unit will exclude the one good cell when all the other ones are bad. Right. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have any questions. I can answer them, but I'll kind of go through the screens again. So, and then this is our information in millivolts. So you can see what it's doing. You can see cell 1 and 3 at 100% oxygen at 1 bar, what they're reading. So 50 and 47 millivolts. Well, and that's kind of what you expect in the range of a normal cell. Now, you can see in 21% ambient air, we're between 7 millivolts, our cell number 2, and 10.5 millivolts, our cell number 1. So 7 is pretty low. I don't know anybody that would accept that from a new cell. That's too low, I think, for a new cell. But we know that this cell is 4 years old. So you can see how over time, it's just the reactivity of the cell is going to be weaker and weaker and weaker. All right. So hopefully these numbers kind of make more sense, so that when you guys get your own oxygen cell testing kit with your Liberty Rebreather, you're going to test your cells, especially when you get new ones in. You're going to make sure that they're going to be doing what new cells should be doing. All right. Yeah, you can see how quickly cell number 2 just gets away from the slope. All right. And then now what I'm going to do is that we're going to have to depressurize the system, and then I'll disassemble. So I'm going to make sure that my oxygen's turned off always, right? I'll bleed the lines too. All right, and then we'll talk about kind of the rest of our tools. So I hope that was helpful with the oxygen cell tester kit. Next thing that I'm going to talk about, this guy. We're going to talk about this guy. So I have our bumper plate. You can see mine, nice, shiny, and chrome. Yeah, it's made out of stainless steel. It has impressed me how strong it is. I can say I may or may not have bumped a couple times, but having a head protector is a very, very good tool, very important tool to have for your investment of your Liberty Rebreather. Any other rebreathers have kind of head covers and bumper plates as well. Some people have even put some cool names on theirs. But these are very important tools. The reflective material, reflectiveness of it is also pretty cool too. And we also have the opening for your buddy light as well. But you can see here that it's very important to protect our handsets, our buddy light, and our heads-up display. I think my guy's gotten scratched up a little bit. I know our newest heads, we painted the Liberty, looks pretty sharp. And then I was speaking earlier about the handset cables. They're really, really good. Oh, thanks, Mike. I was talking about these. The red also does. I think it looks cool, and right, and that's kind of some of our objectives underwater is that we got to look cool, or at least look like we know what we're doing, right? And so it does a fantastic job of protecting the cable itself from getting pinched or crushed. But like I said earlier, what I really like is that it makes the cable rigid. It's not going to kink. You can see it's not going to kink as much or bow out. It's going to give it some pretty good memory. And you're going to be able to, when it's wrapped around your arm, the cable tends to be a little bit closer when it's in this covering. It's my 2 cents. And then we have, I always have my silicone covers on my handsets. These things are super helpful. Now, what's important though, you can see here, look at that. See, Joe? Shame on me. You got to remember, you need to take these out of the covers every once in a while and clean them. Make sure you get all the sand out from under them. Now, these handsets are the same as our Freedoms, and so they have that aluminum body, but still we want to protect it. We want to, keep these things nice and healthy. So it's always important to remove your covers, your silicone covers, so that you can properly clean it out, get all the sand and silt and grime out from under them. All right, so this is our head cover. You can see, look how nicely it fits. It's real nice and clean. It's got 4 screws. So if you do have this and you dive in the ocean a lot, I have been finding that you want to, really make sure you get fresh water in here and clean pretty often. You should be cleaning after every dive, right? And then I make sure I come in with a toothbrush and I try to remove any type of silt, any rock or stone that falls into any of the little cracks and crevices here. Right? Want to keep it lasting nice and long, keep it nice and healthy, right? All right. Next, we have our head fan. This guy is a really awesome or really important tool to really remove the moisture that forms up after diving on our Liberty head. So I try to put stickers on mine. This is really nice. This was the initial idea for the head fan was by my friend Travis Kirsting, really smart guy, lives up here in Cave Country. But it's just a good fan that really draws the air through the system, and it removes the moisture that comes from condensation on the cells. Because our cells are enclosed in this environment, in this capsule, it's to have the airflow once you're done diving, between dives, it's really important to really dry those cells to keep them nice and healthy. That's exactly what this head fan does. So if you're in very humid environments, really great for us here in Florida. It's really important to have the head fan. I encourage that for everybody. All right. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Next thing that we have these. This is our solid state helium sensor. I have this removed just to show you guys, but this goes here in our head underneath the O2 cell, right between the battery and the solenoid. So, we found out that a lot of divers are not diving on helium on every dive. Now, it's really important because the principle that the helium sensor works off of is measuring the speed of sound via the gas that flows in here. Now, if there's any moisture in here, we're going to have a problem. So if I'm not diving helium and trimix all the time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my helium sensors and I'm going to have these plugs in my head. And the reason why you have to have the plugs and you can't just, oh, Joe, why can't I just remove the helium sensors and just work without it? You'll see that if you're in here, that where the gas flows, it's important for there to be the helium sensor here because it directs the gas so that it can be properly measured. If those cells are not in here, the gas is not measured properly. So it's very important to always have your helium sensors in, or to have this plug in place. So this is just a plug that we machined so that the gas flow continues. It's basically, I like to call it a dummy plug, but it's just a blind plug. I have a drink of water. And then let's see. We also have, so this is our oxygen calibration jig. So this is a really cool, the reason why I wanted to show you guys this, there we go. Well, the reason why I wanted to show you guys the inhalation jig is that I wanted to show you kind of how everything works, how everything's kind of designed to work together in the Liberty system, say even with our Solo analyzer or our Set Blender Max. So this is our calibration jig. It's this used when we calibrate our oxygen sensors before we're diving. So this is designed to go into the inhale side. And what this jig does, we have this tubing that I wonder if you guys can recognize it from our Set Blender Max kit, or if you have a Solo and you have one, it plugs straight in here. And then this guy, so what I have here, there you go, make sure I'm on the camera. So this is our low pressure hose cap. This is designed to plug in with this hose. Really handy. I can plug this straight into a oxygen system, just kind of like how I have this regulator feeding into this head, or any gas I want to analyze. I can use this as the analyzer, as it's going to direct the flow right to the oxygen cells. So I use this for calibration. I can use it for gas measurement. It's just a really handy tool, and how everything kind of works together in the Liberty kind of ecosystem, the gas measuring ecosystem, right? So that's why I wanted to show you guys. Really easy to do a calibration. We'll do that probably in another video later. Is that I just remove my loop hose. I can drop the jig in, and I can calibrate my oxygen cells. All right, and then just kind of couple things that we have, just like Jacob was showing. This is our, if I remove the handset, it's just a handset cap that goes here in place of removing a handset. Good to have. It's used a lot with side mount divers when they want to have just one handset. And then I have another cap here. I really like to use this cap to create kind of a seal. Just goes right in here, and it's a bayonet locking system. All our systems it's bayonet fittings, and so sometimes there we go, not too bad. So, but it does a really good job capping everything. If I want to clean my breathing loop, but I want to use my seal, or if I want to seal my sorb, I can do it like this, or I can use. We have our scrubber covers. This is the head cover. This goes onto the bottom of the head. But we have our scrubber covers, which I've showed you guys a couple times before in other previous videos. All right. So hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. I'm going to make sure. Let's see. I'll just leave that there. So I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Hope you guys got to guess how many ducks there were. I have them all out now, so you can see them. 5 ducks, I think, right? Yeah. So if you guys have any other questions on the way we do our oxygen cell tester kit, always be sure to write us. Send us any questions you may have. This is a really great tool. I encourage every Liberty diver to have one. So, but that's all I have for you guys today. Let's see if we can jump over to the main screen. I can say bye-bye. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to tune in on Thursday. I have my guest, Gary Dallas. He's going to be joining us on Divesoft Dive Talks Live. Thanks, everybody, and hope to see you guys diving. Thanks.